Welcome back, everyone.
Peter, are we back?
We're back. We are so back. Episode 3, we are back. And we had a productive week. We didn't catch fire with viral clips. We didn't. But you know what? Gonna happen this week.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Gonna happen this week. We got snubbed a little bit, the TikTok algorithm. I think it was because I think we were too good.
Too charming.
Yes.
Funny.
Right. Yeah,
too informational.
Yeah, the algorithm doesn't reward intelligence and charisma. We're gonna have to dumb down the show quite a bit. So we got a new segment to start the show off. It's going to be a nut shot segment. So we're just
I'm ready to go. I've been saving up all week.
Well, yeah, we've changed the podcast format from us talking about tech and AI to just us getting hit in the nuts for a half hour. I mean, we're joking, but that does actually sound like a podcast I would listen to and watch.
I'm open to trying whatever works. Whatever the people want.
I mean, this influencer game, you got to make some sacrifices, and you got to put the hours in, and sometimes you got to get kicked in the nuts.
Yep.
That's
I've heard that a lot. I don't know if they meant literally, but I'm willing to try.
Oh, I thought they meant literally. Maybe I misunderstood that. Oh, I see. You know what? Let's scrap the nut shot segment. I think I was confused. Boy. Okay. Oh, wow. I had equipment ready. But
yeah,
you know what?
I already added it to my calendar. Let's just do it.
Well, I've got the ice packs ready too. So, but
what are we going through today? We've got a couple juicy topics, do we not?
We do. We do have a couple juicy topics. We run through this podcast. We review AI news, provide takes on it from our background of both working in tech for a long time. I've worked for big tech. Nick's worked for startups. It's fun. We joke around. We help people who might be earlier on in their careers with some insights and advice. So you listen to the show, you get news, you get insights, you get great advice, you make more money, you be successful, you have a great time. The show starts now. Let's dive into it, Nick. So one of the bigger headlines this week, which I want to highlight here, is about Reddit. Reddit stock surged this week, and specifically because of Reddit Answers. Reddit Answers is their AI-powered search tool, and Reddit user base grew by 500% in a single quarter, right? It jumped from 1 million weekly users to 6 million in just 5 months. So people are using Reddit as a search engine. So Nick, why do you think people would prefer Reddit as a search engine over traditional search engine like Google search? What is it about that? What are your thoughts?
Now, so I've thought about this. What is it about Reddit? Like many of us, most of us have used Reddit and gone on to it. But one thing that really strikes me, I know others do it too. When I want to Google for certain information, often I will search for it, like best Beanie Babies, whatever, and then add Reddit to the end in my Google search query. You do that too?
I do that too.
Why do we do that? I think for me, it's that like I want to hear whether it's right or wrong. I want to hear a real human talk about it. I don't want a blog post that was written for SEO or a bunch of ads, right? Why do you do that?
Yeah, I think Reddit is usually a top Google search result when you are trying to figure out something and research something. And what I do like about Reddit is you get both sides. You get both, the for and against argument usually, because people will make a post and people love to argue on Reddit. So you will see in the comments of that post disagreements. It is probably one of the best platforms for arguing online. That and X perhaps. Both are unique platforms where people can express opinions from all sides. So I think when you want to research something fully and you want to get a full picture on all sides, Reddit provides that. Where if you Google search and you get the blue links and you click on the top of the blue link, it is an SEO generated result, and it's usually a one-sided result, right?
Yeah. Do you use it for product reviews? I mean, you can go to Amazon and read those reviews, but there's something better for me about searching for. I just got a Ninja Creamy. It's this ice cream maker, right? And go into Google, Ninja Creamy, Reddit, and you see people back and forth talk about it.
Oh, people love to argue on Reddit.
They love it. And that's what you want. Like sometimes the truth or
Right.
the information that you want comes out of an argument, a disagreement, right?
It does. It does. Because if everyone's just agreeing, it's not a very good insight. You want to know, like, okay, before I spend $500 on this product, what are the downsides? What are the causes? What are the risks? And you can find that on Reddit. Wikipedia is another source, but for some reason, I think Reddit might be taking over some of that. I mean, maybe Wikipedia you would use for a different search, perhaps, but Reddit is, and when you're reading it, not to trust every comment, but it does provide both sides kind of more of a holistic approach.
That is kind of funny, right? You know that going into it, but it's like it's almost like voyeuristic. It's like you're
Yeah.
walking into like a group of people sitting there arguing about whether this product is good or not, right?
Dude, people love to lurk on Reddit too. I think a lot of the Reddit community doesn't post; they just lurk, and they lurk hard on Reddit, dude. People just
So
sit there
there's
and they read
some
like the dating advice stuff, or read about people. People post intimate details about their relationships and their marriages to Reddit, because it's very anonymous, and then people get feedback and just lurking. It is just a lurker's paradise on Reddit.
now when I'm on my phone and I do the whole Google search, go to Reddit, I'll get a Reddit link and then it opens the app. And instead of going to the website, and then I go back, and then all of a sudden I'm using Reddit, right? And you just get sucked in on some of these relationship things, right?
Yep.
The advice that the people need typically is with their relationship. The advice they need to hear is actually don't post on Reddit and ask what you should do about it. Just like go sit down and talk to your partner.
Boy, if there is a truth you don't want to hear, don't post it to Reddit. If you're
Now,
if
okay.
you're perhaps like overweight or failing in some goals and you post to Reddit, you're gonna get some brutally honest truth because
Yes.
people are commenting anonymously and
Well, depending on the subreddit, right? Which is kind of interesting. Are there specific subreddits that you like on Reddit
there
that you
are or
frequent?
there are and Reddit does do a good job against bullying and too many mean comments, but some ones that I okay, there's some there's some ones I like, but I also don't like at the same time. Reddit's public freakouts. That's one like I will check out and then go, okay, I gotta get out of this community because it is like people losing their minds in like Taco Bell and then getting punched in the face. It doesn't. It is incredibly entertaining. I can't take my eyes off of it, but it's also very dark. And I don't know if I like spending my day watching people at their worst moments, but boy, is it entertaining.
Like it's a kind of thing you can't look away from,
It's a total
but you
train
feel
wreck.
gross after spending a few minutes watching it, or an hour, or a few hours.
Yeah, you can't look away, but like I sit there and I go, wow, I've been looking at public freakouts for a half hour, people just losing their minds. I'm like, this isn't putting me in a better mood. This is not giving me faith in society and community. I'm like, it's taking me to a dark place watching people fist fight at a McDonald's, over chicken nuggets.
I
That
mean, I
one's
get it.
that one's a great one. I also like Am I Wrong? There's
Okay.
other ones like Am I the a-hole or Am I
Am I the
Wrong?
asshole? Yeah.
Yeah, those are classic Reddit communities. If you're new to Reddit or you want to know the communities, check those out. You will see some serious posts. There's probably a lot of fake posts. I mean, there's no fact checking when people post. There's probably people who make stuff up if it doesn't have a video to it.
Probably.
It's just text. So those are two really entertaining ones. Um, I do like some of the financial stuff, like the Fat Fire Reddit is actually pretty entertaining, where people post about their net worth, their savings, their personal finance strategies. They get feedback
What does
from
FIRE
everyone.
stand for again?
Financial independence, retire early.
Okay. Okay. And this is when you deliberately are kind of So you're not thinking about retirement when you're 65. You're deliberately getting a little nest egg so that you can either retire early and live off those investments or take a mini retirement for a couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. So I got
Okay.
into fire years ago, and it caught my interest. Um, you know, when I was starting to make more money in tech sales, and I was,
Mhm.
kind of getting goals in my head of what I wanted to spend my money on. I think initially it was, I want to buy a house. I think that's what everyone's goal was. Because I grew up on MTV Cribs, and that was the coolest thing to have a big house. And I feel like I've come to the realization that a big house is really more of a headache, and not always the best investment either, especially when compared to like the S&P or some tech stocks. So when I discovered fire, I thought, oh wow, you can buy freedom with your money. You can buy your independence. You can, exit out of corporate America. You can do your own projects. So that was my goal for the last maybe 15 years or so, was saving up, investing in the S&P with the idea of getting to a number where I could basically retire early off of that and then pull out a certain percentage, which is usually around 4% of what you
Yeah.
saved to spend on an annual basis. So that's financial independence, retire early. There's really good subreddits and communities on Reddit about this information. So people have all different types of approaches to fire. Some people have like lean fire, where they're living off of a couple $1,000s a month. It might be internationally. There might be expat fires where people move.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's coast fire. That's another one where it's like, all right, you saved up halfway to your fire goal, but now you don't have to save anymore. You can just let your investments grow in the S&P, coast for another 5-10 years, and then you'll hit your fire goal.
Interesting. And what's
Yeah.
fat fire?
Oh yeah, that's the best type of fire right there. Fat fire is when you retire with a lot of money. And I'm not exactly sure if everyone agrees upon what that amount is, but I think it's probably somewhere in the $10 million range. So if you retire with 10 million or so, I could be wrong on that. I think maybe it might be more like 5, 6. I can't remember how everyone's agreed upon. There's probably some disagreements on that too, but fat fire is when you go and you just have a ton, and that might be some people's goals. What's interesting is like you and I, we agree on a lot of things. We do a lot of things similar, but when it comes to personal finances or so on, you are a much bigger risk taker than I am.
Yes, in a lot of ways. Uh, I am drawn to it. I'm drawn to startups. And then there's certain logic to it that if you're continually thoughtfully taking big risks in your career and you can sustain that, it's actually a low risk outcome if you do it for long enough, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Um, that's some of the logic, some of it, calming logic, right?
So
Now
so okay,
you've been steady in working at some of the best tech companies for an eternity. What's an eternity in tech, right? Over 13 years, is that right?
yeah, I mean, eternity. I don't. I mean, there's a lot more people have more experience, but you're correct. I did sales, so I took on risk at in sales that I'd have a 50% chance of hitting the number. So I was playing roulette most of my career, and luckily I hit more than I lost out. But I had to kind of every year I was tested on that. Whereas the
Hmm.
startup, it's less than a 50% chance whether you're sell eggs. I mean, I don't know, maybe 9 out of 10 startups fail. I don't exactly know the percentage. I think it's probably like that. But you just need to be right once. Or
This is true.
I need to be right maybe majority of time or so on. But you just need to have one hit. So you can, if you want to start up, you could fail 9 times. And then the one time you succeed, you exit, and all of a sudden you come into a boatload of money, which maybe not all exits are, but it is a different approach. You have a higher risk doing startups. I took on some risk doing tech sales, but not as much. But I was still able to, at 39, hit my fire goals. So
Yep.
it's interesting, but you can't get to a fat fire goal necessarily doing tech sales for big tech. That is the fat fire goal, the huge exits, that you're just only going to get that type of money from some kind of high growth asset like a startup. Um, so I don't know. Maybe there's a case for both. But you didn't seem to have any interest in saving a little bit of money. You wanted a lot of money.
This is true. Um, This is true. Like, you know, I like the idea of the things you can do in the world with a lot of capital. The good that you can do in the world, the kind of crazy and weird, the big companies that you could start that take a lot of capital that maybe other investors don't want to take on that risk, right? Um, it is a means to an end that goes beyond just, having a nice, cushy life. There are, I mean, if you're a dreamer and you like tech, there's a future that can be built. And some of those things take a lot of capital. Look at everything we talk about today. AI is obviously the biggest thing. That took a lot of capital and a lot of risk to train these systems, these models, right? And that's not the kind of thing that you do as your first startup. Sam Altman, he had had a lot of success in his career, and he went and did this crazy thing that was laughed at by all the experts in AI to attempt to build AGI, artificial general intelligence, right? Um, Elon Musk, right? He had huge wins before he really went after these things that were just categorically bad ideas, like a rocket company and a car company. Even his close friends, Peter Thiel, they thought he was so dumb to start a rocket company, right? Those are the things that you can do after you've achieved some level of success, financial success.
Yeah, that's interesting. So my motivation and my personal finance goals motivation was for a nice lifestyle. I wasn't thinking that I'm going to create rockets. I'm going to go to Mars. I'm going to change, big technology in the future. I'm going to change society. But you're right. If you do have that goal of I want to do something kind of incredible, a lot of those startups that make bigger differences require a ton of capital in a longer
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah,
There are short startups that might be able to start up quick and have an exit for a couple million or so on. But some of these bigger, loftier goals, it's a bigger risk, it's a
yep,
moonshot, and it's going to take more capital.
yep, yep. And like, to be clear, it's not normal or it's not typical, right?
Yeah,
Like
I,
most
I think I
normal
think I think
people,
I'm more yeah the more
a
balanced sort.
hundred percent, 100% more balanced. Like
Yeah.
there's a part of me that finds it kind of, I don't know, endearing, fascinating. The idea of like you've spent every dollar for a moonshot and you're really scrapping it together for a few years just to make this happen. You might succeed, you might not. Um, you know, Elon, there are multiple times he kind of like ran out of money. The
Yeah.
thing had to work, and it's sick. It's, in a way self-sabotaging, but like there's just something kind of cool about that, right?
So it's
And there's
interesting.
just
It's like you and I are both. I'm doing tech sales. You're an entrepreneur. We're both at the roulette table. I'm betting red or black. You're
right.
putting all your chips on number 28.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
that's the risks that we take. Now, if yours hits, oh yeah, oh you're
Yes.
going you're going
Yes.
you're going big that night. You know you're
There are
you're
some
you're you're
some
having a lot of
also
freedom.
hidden benefits to that, where it's not all about the actual outcome, but you're now this person who's taking big bets, and you become somewhat of a magnet during that time. You connect with a lot of folks that
Hmm.
want to be close to that, right? And the bigger, sometimes, actually, this is very true. In startups, sometimes the bigger risk, the bigger bet you're playing, the bigger the vision, sometimes the easier it is. It's really weird because all of a sudden you become this person that's building something big that people want to invest in. You become this company that people want to go work. The most passionate people want to go work at those companies. It becomes less about money and more about a mission.
Yeah.
There's kind of this promised land of like big vision, that all of a sudden becomes easier as long as you're really competent and capable, right? Don't do that if you're not competent and capable.
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay. let's move on to the next segment. That was a fun tangent from the Reddit news. Let's talk about Apple. Nick, do me a favor. Can you pull your mic up just to double check here, do a little sound check for me?
Absolutely. Testing 1, 2, 3.
I think it might be. I think it might be going through your computer mic.
Okay, very good.
I could be wrong, but we will go on to the next segment here. So we're going to talk about Apple and its AI investment.
Very
So
good.
during a recent earnings call, Apple CTO Tim Cook announced that the company is significantly growing its AI investment. This includes reallocating employees to focus on AI development and considering mergers and acquisitions to accelerate its AI roadmap, something they don't typically do. But to give some context to where Apple is in the AI race and how much they invest in it, Google and Microsoft are projected to spend nearly $400 billion on AI-related capital expenditures in 2025, and Apple's capital expenditures for AI were only $13 billion. So there's a huge gap between what everyone else is spending on AI and what Apple is spending. $400 billion is what Google and Microsoft spend on AI, and $13 billion is what Apple spends in the same period. So it's interesting strategy. Apple isn't always a first mover on new technology stuff. Um,
That's true.
and it hasn't been a bad strategy for them either. It has not been a bad strategy for them. It's been a great stock to own. So what do you think they're going to do here, merger and acquisition wise? Who do you think they would potentially buy? What are some dream scenarios of really extreme takeovers? Let's discuss.
I think Apple's in a tough spot. I think they're missing some real leadership on this front. I think for a while, they've kind of let their AI people do what they think is best, and progress has been very slow. They've been overpaying on their people in AI, and they've produced so little. Do you think Apple could pull this together with an acquisition?
Yeah, I do. I do. Because they've got so much capital, right? And they could acquire some rather large companies. So the three companies that people are talking about Apple acquiring are Perplexity, which is the AI kind of powered search engine. And if you think about this, if Apple acquires Perplexity, not only would they get in the AI race and be much more competitive, but they'd really have a competitor on their own search engine, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't have a good search engine competitor to Google, and Perplexity has a chance. Now, search engine is extremely competitive. Google kind of has a lock on the market, but Perplexity could potentially challenge that. They have to spend probably around $14 billion to acquire Perplexity, and that would be the largest takeover they've ever done. But they could do it. They could also acquire Anthropic. Anthropic is the AI company known for like their large language model Claude, which is very good at AI programming. They could align that with some of their Xcode developer environment stuff. That would be another huge acquisition they could do. I think those would work. I think those would potentially work well. I mean, Perplexity would make a lot of sense, and perhaps they could even incorporate that into Safari and reduce Safari, because Safari is not the best either. I mean, do you use
It's
Safari?
not.
I don't use Safari.
I use it on my phone just because it's default.
It's
Now,
defaulted.
one thing that would happen if they did acquire Perplexity is they would risk or lose the revenue they get every year from Google, right? A lot of people don't know this, but Google pays Apple a lot of money every year to be their default search engine, right? Um, that's actually one of the bigger deals going on between Apple and Google. Now they'd have to just go all in on Perplexity. How much they would pay for the Perplexity acquisition would actually probably be very little compared to the revenue they'd miss out on.
Oh, so you think there's conflicts? There's
Definitely.
conflicts for them
Huge
competing
conflicts,
in the
right?
search engine
Now,
space.
Google's search and search in general is getting all mixed up, right? How much do you Google now versus going to ChatGPT or Gemini or something else?
It's different. It's very different. A lot more people have the ChatGPT app than the Google Gemini app by a long shot. OpenAI was a first mover. They're way ahead of Google. Not necessarily on like a model performance basis, but on just users using the app. Now Google's incorporating into their search, and it's very. I use Gemini quite a bit, but to your point though, I mean Apple's so far behind now. Maybe they'd incorporate the AMLs into the phone, but the Siri AI stuff is laughably bad. It
It's
is
so bad.
it is bad. It
Do
can
you?
barely tell you what the weather is. That's
It,
about all it can do.
it's so bad. What? So do you get the summaries on your texts that come up on your iPhone?
No.
So I turned that on and I left them on, not because it's useful, because it's comically bad sometimes.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Like many times I've screenshotted to send to my wife, so when it pulls together, there's like some emergency I have to deal with, and she really wants tacos. And the combined summary is hilarious, right? It's not useful. And like Apple knows it. All their users know it. They're just totally fumbling this thing. And it's very unlike Apple. Like you said before, Apple typically, they will just kind of wait until they can nail it and then they put it out. And it's like somehow they were pressured or something to put something out and it was not good. And I don't know if they are going to get better. I do think if they were to acquire Anthropic, that that would be really good for Apple. However, I doubt Anthropic would actually go for an acquisition like that. Some of these AI companies, Anthropic, OpenAI, some of the others, they are now living, breathing this idea that this is it. This is winner take all. This is not winner take all in AI. This is winner take all in everything, right?
Mm.
So if you believe that, and they may or may not believe that, that's what they say they believe. If you believe that, it doesn't make sense to distract yourself for some like stupid little $50 billion acquisition. Like, who cares, right?
You may be. Uh, you're right. I mean, culturally, they do seem like different companies.
Yeah,
Perhaps different missions.
yeah. Now,
That.
Mistral is another company. I see you put this down there. That
Mhm.
I think Apple could actually acquire them. And I do think it would be helpful. I haven't heard about Mistral in a while. I think they've fallen behind a little bit. The open source models have fallen behind quite a bit.
So why do you think that is? Why are open source AI models not keeping up?
I never really understood this whole I think open source is the way to go. It's like anti-capitalist almost. It's like there's a pretty great system. You build something and people pay you for it, and then you use that money to better the product or the offering, right? Um, Open source, it means someone has to like fund all of the development. And it's not just the development, it's expensive training
Yeah.
of these models using really expensive equipment and a lot of electricity. That's great if we kind of like get to the end and models don't get smarter and smarter, but there there's a huge disadvantage where someone who's making money from training their models are going to have more money to make the next smarter model, and these things are going to start getting smarter and smarter and smarter. So I just don't see how open source really fits into this if you're talking about, open source versus closed source.
Makes sense. Okay, so how about here's three extreme examples of
Okay.
companies Apple could acquire. Okay. Apple could acquire Netflix, right? Netflix current market cap is around 500 billion. They could do it.
500 billion. Man.
They'd have to pay like a 30% premium, so maybe Apple would have to spend like 650 billion to acquire it. It would be a pretty big deal. I mean, Apple has about 250 billion in cash reserves. So they have to take on debt to do it, but it would be doable.
Yeah.
Why they would do that? I mean, they would immediately acquire a lot of content, and in the streaming war space, they would certainly become a huge giant. So they would certainly take on Disney and other competitors a lot more. Does it make sense? I don't see it, but it's a possibility. They could also acquire Disney. That would probably make even a little more sense. I think there has been rumors of this in the past. of Apple acquiring Disney. That would be like 215 billion. So they'd have to pay a premium on that, maybe for 280 billion, which is a little bit more manageable considering the cash reserve. Now, what's interesting about that is they wouldn't just get obviously the content and the licensing to all the Disney stuff, but they would get the physical the physical locations, and then combining some of Apple's technology and the Disneyland and the Disney World. There could be some alignment there. Now,
I could see that. There's something about those brands. I could just see them fitting together. You agree
it's
with that?
I think it's not. I think that one's extreme, but still has potential. Well, I think it happens. I think it's unlikely, but it's not. It's 5% chance. I would say not a 1% chance. Now this next one might be a 1% chance, but it would be extreme, and that would be if Apple bought Tesla. Imagine that. Tesla, approximately $1 trillion company. They have to pay a 30% premium, so they would be strapped to acquire us. I don't know how they would exactly finance it. They've got 250 billion cash reserves, but they have to take on a lot of debt to do this. Now, it would be disruptive because Apple would then be in the car market, which they've been trying to get into. If you remember, Apple spent years on Project Titan, where they stole a lot of talent from Tesla. They were trying to get into it. Supposedly, I don't think that went anywhere. So they're not in the self-driving technology race, but they could acquire that, and then they would really, really have a strong competitive advantage. It would be a lot of cash and a ton of risk because Tesla is such a risky company too.
Hugely
Perhaps
risky.
a little different culture as well. But imagine that. Imagine that.
It would be interesting. I don't think it would ever happen. Elon would never, he wouldn't want to not be in control. It would be interesting to have those ecosystems brought together.
I mean, both Apple and Tesla are so serious and dedicated to their products. Like the
Yep.
product experience in both of those companies is, I think, the driving culture of the companies. And I don't know. I mean, you could imagine some remarkable innovations coming out if that did happen.
Yeah, it would be cool, right? What do you think of what Tesla's driving toward? What do you think of the Optimus robot?
I don't know too much about the Optimus robot. I do know the self-drive rollout in Austin has got a lot of people talking. So the robotaxi, the self-drive stuff in Austin, them expanding the map. I have a Tesla. I have the full self-drive, and I'll say it's really impressive. It's worth the $100 a month. It certainly is, but it only works 90% of the time. I do take over
Interesting.
a fair amount. Not only does it mess up
Interesting.
maybe with navigation a little bit, and it's really great, but like 90%, maybe 95 if we're being if we're being generous, but it'll mess up navigation. It'll take wrong turns. If the sunlight is hitting the cameras in a certain way, you'll have to take over immediately. So I don't know how they're going to pull this off. I imagine they are updating the software and getting it very complete, and perhaps using a combination of not only the cameras but the actual GPS data of the environment to better learn.
Interesting.
But yeah, I don't I'm skeptical on this one.
Now,
It's taking a big risk.
have you gotten in a Tesla Cybercab?
No, have you?
I have not. Yeah, I don't think it's in San Francisco yet, right? Are you going to try?
Um, I will. It's limited, so perhaps that's why we haven't been able to.
Okay.
It
Okay.
must be limited. I would certainly do it. I would certainly do it. And they're going to have a big self-driving update that's going to come to people in Austin. So my Tesla will get updated with a lot more
Really?
some GPS data. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Have you gotten in a Waymo?
You know what? I haven't.
They're
I have
so
not.
good. It's so good. You
You
actually
prefer it,
don't
don't you?
prefer it to Uber for sure. And you don't even really realize how much you prefer it to Uber until you try it. And to be clear, like all self-driving, I think, right? Like, I think Tesla will be great as well. But it's just kind of a Zen experience, right? When you're entering someone else's space in an Uber, I mean, it's great, maybe you'll chat with someone, but often you're not in the mood and it tenses you up a little bit, right? You're thinking about where you got to go. And it's just so nice in a way about to climb in. It's your environment. it drives really well. Shockingly, actually, it
Yeah.
feels natural.
Yeah.
I love it.
I, I'm about it. I'm about it. I would trust it. I'm about it. Um,
You know, it's kind of funny actually. When I'm walking across the street as a pedestrian, not in a Waymo, but as a pedestrian, I've noticed that if it's a Waymo like coming up to the light, I actually trust it more than if it were a human driver. I feel a little bit safer as a pedestrian.
I agree with that. I agree
Yeah.
with that. Because I know that it's going to be like risk adverse.
Yeah. Yes, right? It's I think more reliable. There's no emotion behind it, right? Someone
Yeah.
could be having a bad day and
Road rage,
aggressively driving.
or it's
Totally,
night and they've
right?
been drinking. Right.
Totally.
Yes. So a lot can happen. All right, let's move on to the next segment here. The other big headline this week was OpenAI launching study mode. And this is an educational version of ChatGPT, and it's developed for educators and scientists. So the goal with study mode is it addresses concerns about regular chatbot undermining critical thinking, perhaps cheating. So instead of it just providing the direct answers like you would get at ChatGPT, study mode uses a different method for posing questions and offering hints and encouraging students to solve these problems. Now, here's the thing: you can just switch back out of study mode and get the answer directly. So for me, I don't exactly get it. I don't see
Yeah, what's that
students.
for?
I don't know. I don't see. You could. I guess it helps the learning process more. I mean, maybe universities or schools might encourage their students to use that, or perhaps require it. But if I'm a student, I'm like, oh, I can get hints or I can get the answer. I want the answer. I don't want to be in this library for more than time than I have to. You know?
Okay, well, maybe it's not for doing homework. Maybe it is for preparing for a test, right? And maybe
Okay.
the default mode is frustrating to use because it's like, I didn't want to see the answer. I like wanted to think through it, right?
Yeah, maybe that will get built out into it where it quizzes you and it forces you
Yeah,
to memorize the stuff. I guess, but it's also I don't know, like using Chat GPT to cheat. It's like it you can certainly use it to cheat and write stuff, but like we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing in education that if we're not allowing people to use AI,
totally.
what are we preparing them for? Because they're going to have AI
Totally.
in the real world.
Right. I mean, they don't know how to deal with it right now, right? This is such a significant change that universities were already so behind on the times
So
in what
behind.
industry is doing, right? And now things are moving fast. They have to be way behind. I mean, what you learned a year ago would now be irrelevant to the marketplace, right? I mean, I feel
Yes.
bad for some coders that are just graduating now. They spent 4 years learning something that's now outdated. I mean, some of it, right? But the industry is moving. The tech industry is moving so fast toward AI supported coding, right? Now, if you're young, you can learn really fast, and it's good to learn the fundamentals. But like schools need to learn how this wraps into education. They need to do it fast.
They do. I mean, higher education is failing. I got some statistics here. 40% of undergraduate students in the US drop out before earning a degree. So there's 42 million US
Did
adults.
you say 14 or 40?
40% of undergraduate students in the US drop out before earning a degree. And there's
What?
currently 42 million US adults who have some college experience, but no degree.
Wow.
Yeah. So what is frustrating, and I think part of the motivation with the study mode is to incorporate more of like a hybrid model, sort of like how Khan Academy approaches things. So Khan
Okay.
Academy has AI tutors that have become very popular. I think like there's like 700,000 users using this tool for AI tutors. So I do think there's a potential for OpenAI to disrupt the education market. What is really holding back the disruption of the higher education is the accreditation and the agencies that make bachelor degree accreditation, because they are still basically in an old school model. So right now, you know, Khan University, you can't get a bachelor's degree from Khan University. You can't get a bachelor's degree
Yep.
from many online or AI powered universities because the accreditation agencies are the gatekeepers. So essentially, these
Now,
accreditation agencies are volunteer groups of peers who come from higher ed. And of course, they're going to have a vested interest in the status quo, not only because there's financial incentives for the universities to keep charging higher education due to student loans, but also there is like a part of the club mentality that people who attended higher universities
totally.
have, right? And I get it. They worked hard. They attended a good university. They want that to mean something. But more and more people are saying that doesn't mean shit. Okay. Just because
Interesting.
you went to a nice college and you were able to study and memorize stuff for a test doesn't translate you to being an effective, productive person in the real world. It just, congratulations. You worked hard during those years, but you shouldn't be doing the gatekeeping you're doing, because if the goal for a lot of these organizations is to improve the educational experience, to make it more accessible, to make our society better, having accreditation and gatekeeping does the exact opposite, right? It makes it expensive. It makes it inaccessible. It makes it a more frustrating outcome. And then we get situations where 40% of people drop out without getting the degree. You get a ton of student loan debt too. It's going to change, and there are policies intact that are changing with like the U.S. State Department of the U.S. Department of Education. But man, what a scam we've been running our generation. The millennials were scammed by higher education like no other generation prior.
Totally. Totally. They hit it like kind of at the knee of the curve where, not enough people have kind of woken up to this, right? Tell me, in your experience at different tech companies, did they value a degree? Was that like a requirement?
It's a good question. I think it is still a requirement, or a soft requirement, but it is for a competitive position, which it is very competitive to get jobs at big tech, right? To get a job at Google, to get a job at other places. So if you're competing for someone who has a bachelor's degree and you don't, like it's gonna be a knock against you. It's just how it is. Um,
Mm,
which is unfortunate. But the hiring manager also has a bachelor's degree or more, and I think they care less about the place you went, unless it was the same university the hiring manager went to. Then he'll be biased. But other than that, it doesn't really matter where you get the bachelor's degree from. But it is a check in the box,
yeah,
and recruiters have to filter out candidates in some way,
they
and
do
that's
have
just
to
one
filter.
area where they'll knock you against because you don't have a bachelor's degree. Now, if we had different accreditation processes, you could get bachelor's degrees from Coursera or Khan University and check that box. And then you could be more accessible and really have a lot more better job options. And you could do so way more effectively and utilize technology. Right now, all these universities, to get the accreditation, you have to have like a physical library. You have to have a lot of different traditional methods that,
Oh, really? You have to have
yes,
a physical library for
you
accreditation?
have to have physical facilities. There has to be a certain amount of faculty involved in it. It's just reinforcing the traditional model where tuitions is super high to basically pay for a growing administration cost. So
Interesting.
it is going to have to change. It is going to have to get disrupted. People are fed up with it, and I do think that the millennial generation got probably scammed the worst, because when we were in high school, what was enforced to us was that education is the most important, and basically you getting into a good college is going to be the biggest impact on the rest of your life. Specifically, good college. It was very heavily weighted on your grades and getting into a good college and how much pressure that put on. Now, what we didn't know is that it really wasn't for us. It was for the parents. It was for the
Yeah.
parents because they were trying their best and this is what they thought was going to work. And some of it was status too, right? Some of it was status so parents could drive around with the bumper stickers of where their kids went to college and say, "Oh, he's going to Stanford," But it really, as we look back, it wasn't that impactful. The education part, at least, what you maybe the people you met in college and so on was impactful, but what you learned certainly was not impactful, and was hurtful because a lot of people got a lot of debt, a ton of debt,
Yeah. Yeah.
debt
Like
you can't,
guaranteed harm, no matter
yeah,
what. Whether it
debt
ends
that
up good for you
people,
or not, debt is really really harmful for a lot of people too. You can't kind of focus on your own growth until you kind of get past that, right? And when that hangs over people, they are trapped.
Oh yeah,
It's
you
really
do not have
harmful.
freedom when you are in debt. You are in
Right.
endangered servitude working off student loans that you can't get out of with bankruptcy.
Completely. Right. You can't take any risks. You got to just go with, what will pay off that debt. It's really bad.
Yeah. How they got a law that you can't declare bankruptcy to get out of student loans should be criminal. However, they finagled the system to allow you can't declare bankruptcy to get out of student loans was so destructive to so many people.
Totally. Totally. I
I'm
mean,
going to research exactly how that happened. But someone was like, you know what, we can make a lot of money by reducing the risk of student loans, and here's how we'll do it, and the bankruptcy. And then all it did was just basically inflate the amount students could loan, therefore inflating the cost of tuition, therefore universities grow the administrations and the facilities and so on. None of them really benefited the people that paid for the education. And now with the online and technology being so efficient, it just doesn't make sense to pay huge tuitions to go to private school. It just doesn't.
so, okay, let's do a little experiment or a little thought experiment here. Let's say, Peter Smith, you are now in charge of education in the US, in the world, post high school. You need to make sure as many people as possible learn what they need within the next 4 years to get into the workforce, build a good life, get a good job that they're happy about. How would you craft it?
Yeah. So they are making some of these changes that I do think will be beneficial.
Right.
We need to change the accreditation process, which is what I just highlighted, to stop being such a gatekeeperist organization and allow online universities to get bachelor accreditation. So that's going to have to change. The administrative bloat that goes into the organizations needs to change. That's not benefiting anyone growing on the administration part of the universities. So I think it does come from some policy changes in the accreditation, perhaps even giving more power at state levels to give accreditation and having more flexibility there. There does need to be probably some oversight to ensure some quality assurance in education, but really it's got to be focused more on reducing student debt and the costs associated with education too, providing it more accessible and flexible, which the changing the accreditations will help, and then really aligning the education with more modern workforce stuff, which is what I think you were essentially asking: is how do we make education align with more modern workforce?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really translate when you're studying for test making cue cards going in, doing a test, and then you go to the workplace and it's like, oh, I have meetings, I have agendas. It's like much more of a time management dilemma, right? So I do think productivity and time management are good skills that people can learn in college. It's not taught, but essentially you can learn those in college, and that translates really effectively to being productive in the workforce. If you can figure out how to manage your calendar and your to-do list, like it doesn't necessarily matter what you got in the SATs, right? It doesn't necessarily matter because you're
Totally.
going to be prepared and get stuff done on time. And somehow we need to align that better. And then, of course, aligning the newer technologies that we're using today in the workforce within the universities, which I think they are trying with AI. But let's not outlaw AI in universities. Let's not ban it because people are using it for cheating. Let's embrace it. Let's figure out how for students to get better at it. Right?
Yeah, and it really is a skill. I mean,
Yes.
when I'm using AI to maybe write a press release or write copy for a website, right? It takes a lot of concentration and work to get it right. Yes, you can do more faster, but it's not just like easy mode. Otherwise, you end up with AI slop, which some people do, right? It is a skill. And it's hard to kind of keep up with everything that you can do, all the changes in AI.
It is. It's a lot to learn. I'm sure some universities are adopting this and teaching it more, but that should definitely be encouraged because the future of work in the workplace is going to be using AI tools all day. It's going to
Yeah.
be your main interface is going to be talking with an AI. It's going to be very different than what our university experience was, right? So the university experience needs to mirror the workforce experience, which is going to be how we interact and collaborate with AI.
Yeah.
Very much so. So I'm going to close this out. I've got a segment here, Nick. I haven't told you about this.
Oh boy.
I
What do we got?
haven't told you about this. We need a name for the podcast.
Oh, okay.
So I've got a couple suggestions that I want your feedback on, and you let me know. So potential names for this podcast: the Virgin Vibe Check.
Oh, that is what we're doing every day here. It's pretty good.
Here's another
What
one:
else you got?
another white guy podcast.
Oh, yes.
There's not enough.
There are not enough,
There's
right?
not enough.
You're welcome, everyone. What else you got?
Nick and Peter versus the robots.
That one I kind of like.
We're fighting We're fighting the future
We
here,
are
buddy.
fighting. Yeah, we are fighting the
fight.
future. Yeah.
I would ask you how many robots you think you could beat up, but I don't know if we can beat up robots. Like, we're gonna have to beat these robots with other robots.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. As long as they're small enough, I could handle a few.
What about the one that walks on all fours? What's that robot called?
Oh, Big Dog was one of the first notable ones.
Think you could beat it?
Spot?
That's
Oh.
the one that came from is the Stanford Research Lab that did that one?
Yeah, Boston Scientific, I think.
Oh, it's Boston Scientific. Do you think you could beat that up?
Yeah, for sure. In fact, I got into a little scuffle with one the other day on the street.
Did you really?
Yeah, I was hungry. I was waiting for my delivery food, and I had a little mix-up. I thought it had my delivery, and it kept walking by, and I went to go grab it, and it went into its aggressive mode, and it snatched onto my shirt with its little arm, and I just kind of went nuts. It was not my food.
My mistake.
My mistake. But yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to learn how to fight these robots, and we are here in this podcast. We're gonna teach you.
That's right. That's what we're doing from now on.
What we're doing from now on. We're fighting the good fight. All right, Nick. This has been fun. Appreciate the topics. See y'all next time.
See ya.